Hello, everybody, and welcome to episode number 433 of the Stacey West Podcast. I'm your host, Ben, and I'm joined tonight by a jubilant Chris Lamming. How you doing, mate? Are you well?
Of course I'm well. What a day yesterday. Yeah, had a lovely Christmas, but you can't deny the highlight of Christmas being a fantastic 2-1 victory away at Stockport yesterday. Oh, on top of the world, mate. Still flying high. Good. Kind of 24 hours later. How are you?
I'm very good, mate. Yeah, it's been a wonderful week. We've had I've had family up, and we've got lots of food, lots of drink. I think I've survived the past 2 days on alcohol and crisps, which has been that's fairly standard for this time of year. Obviously not for yourself, but driving over to Stockport to do the commentary again and smashing it again. I am reliably informed by several members of the Discord and people that were tuning in. So yeah, big congrats on that one again, mate. It's you seem to be becoming a bit of a natural, which is concerning because we need you here at the Stacey West, Chris. We can't keep sending you out on loan.
Well, thank you very much for the kind words. Yeah, it certainly doesn't feel natural. It doesn't feel normal yet, but it's it's an absolute pleasure. Working with John Helm is a dream come true, as mentioned the last couple of times I did it, but. Yeah, I certainly haven't got used to it. I am very much savouring every single moment. But on a complete tangent, you mentioned surviving the last few days off alcohol and Chris, and you mentioned you're enjoying some whiskey right now. Am I right?
Yes, sort of.
Okay, and it just reminded me of something because Gary and I play pool now and then, and there's normally 3 or 4 of us that play. Dave, who gets mentioned quite a bit on this podcast, and our friend Ed as well. And we do a Secret Santa, and we did ours 2 or 3 weeks ago. Santa knows me well. Santa got me a bottle of pina colada ready made. Anyway, gets through to Christmas morning. And then my mum clearly knows me very well because I woke up and opened an identical bottle of pina colada, neither of which have been touched just yet. I will save them until New Year's Eve, but I just thought it was worth sharing. That reminded me of the fact I've got 2 identical bottles of something which is quite obviously me.
Well, it absolutely is, because of course.
If you like pina coladas, getting caught in the rain.
There we go.
I'm really impressed you managed to do that so quickly because I had not given you a heads up about that at all.
No, I was
found that button so fast is pretty impressive.
Yeah, I was trying to find the button as soon as I saw the first bottle. I was like, yes, got to find it. But no, that is superb that you managed to get 2 different bottles of the same thing. That's it's usually reserved for me when it comes to Jack Daniels, because I am a self-confessed Jack Daniels fan. The whiskey in question that I'm drinking tonight is the Blackberry Jack Daniels, which is I'm gonna say, if you mix that with lemonade, Chris, that becomes lethal because you can't taste any alcohol in it and it doesn't taste like whiskey, to the point that even Rach, who cannot stand the smell of Jack Daniels, even she likes it. So
wow, is it basically pop?
Yeah, essentially stick some of that in there with a bit of lemonade and it's all good. But
yesterday, when I got back from Stockport, I did pop in for a swift pint or 2 at the pub and had a pint, and I also had a short that I had never tried before. It was the coffee version of Kraken rum.
Ooh,
very, very nice. Highly recommend that if that's your sort of thing.
That sounds very good indeed. So what did Father Christmas bring you? Did he bring you anything nice aside from pina coladas?
He did, yeah. I'm an only child, and so is my partner, so we get absolutely spoiled rotten. But at least we know and we appreciate it. Santa brought me some pennies to go towards our house move and various bits and bobs, but did get a book, which I have realised I had mentioned to Steph months ago, had subsequently forgotten about said book. And it's this one here called More Than a Shirt by Joey Durso. It's all about football shirts and how they tell a deeper story about the world. And it's very, very good. So yeah, I highlighted the day that I'm not a massive reader, but when I find something I'm interested in, I'll kind of get lost in it. And yeah, I've been getting lost in that book for the last few days.
Wow. Okay. That's all good. I also got a book, but I think my book might be slightly more juvenile and slightly more fun. I have the EFL Panini sticker album, which Rach bought for me, along with, I think, around 40 packs of stickers. So I spent a good couple of hours on Christmas Day filling in the stickers. And let me see if I can just find the Lincoln City page, which currently has a few stickers in there. I got the badge. I got the Riley Towler and Sonny Bradley sticker and the shiny Tendai Doriqua captain sticker. Yeah. So, yeah, if anybody wishes to do swaps, feel free to let me know. And yeah, I will be well up for that. Kate says in the chat, I got that sticker album a month ago and I can't find any of the packs of stickers anywhere. They are like gold dust, literally. I think it was the night before Christmas Eve that I saw I had an email from somebody that I bought some stuff from before for Rach, and it said EFL stickers now back in stock, and I just forwarded it to Rach. I was like, you might want to check your emails, and yeah, sure enough, she saw that email and bought me a load. So yeah, that was quite funny. So we got those, and yeah, filled out a load of my book. Not as much as I'd like, but yeah, hopefully we'll move on with that one. But yeah, it's been a good old week for Lincoln City. I think we've probably spoken about Christmas and presents enough now. Yeah, following on from a phenomenal result against Cardiff, we've managed to somehow do something that we haven't done in 24 years. Absolutely ridiculous. Boxing Day 2001, Newcastle United were top of the Premier League. Robbie Williams and Nicole Kidman were top of the charts. The first Lord of the Rings film was dominating the box office, and Lincoln City won away at Boston United. That was the last time that we won on Boxing Day. Christmas has been a sad affair for Lincoln City fans for many, many years since then. But yesterday, Chris, we got our first win on Boxing Day in 24 years away at Stockport County. What a day that was.
Yeah, and we deserve to as well. We're obviously going to dissect the game in a moment, but overriding feeling is, yeah, not only did we win, and it feels so much better when it's a last-minute winner, but it was deserved. It was a brilliant performance, particularly in the first half, and then later in the game as we were pushing it as well. It was just, yeah, top draw. We mentioned, me and Gary mentioned after the Cardiff game that maybe just starting to believe, and we obviously did a quick preview of the Stockport game. I'd take 0-0 on the most boring game of football in history immediately, but it was far from that. It was incredibly entertaining, and yeah, we got more than I could possibly have wished for. Did not expect to win at all. Felt we could, but never for a second really felt we would. And yeah, it feels like this Lincoln City team has just found another gear, really, and it's an absolute pleasure to witness.
Yeah, it absolutely is. I mean, we'll start with the lineup, and I think the thing that probably surprised some people was that there were no changes from the Cardiff starting 11, Chris.
Yeah, that was a little bit interesting, mainly because Michael mentioned in his press conference that over the next few games he is going to have to shuffle his pack a little bit. I didn't expect us to start the game as we finished against Cardiff. We mentioned against Cardiff the brilliant tactical change that Michael made, change into a back three to get us more up the pitch. And it obviously worked brilliantly against Cardiff. I didn't think we would start like that against Stockport just because of their tactics, but I did expect to see a change or two. I didn't know where those changes were going to be, but just expected to see something different. But I was really pleased to see that we hadn't changed a winning 11. That started the game so well against Cardiff. It is worth touching on Stockport's lineup, though, I think, Ben, because they made a few changes. Some some changes which have showed us a lot of respect. Bearing in mind that they're at home. So they brought Nathan Lowe back in, who, albeit playing as a number 9 for Walsall last season on loan from Stoke and scoring loads and loads of goals in the first half of the season, We're starting in a deeper role, kind of a number 10, a wide number 10 role. Alogu came in at centre back. Dodgson came in at left back or left wing back. And then Osborne, who was playing wing back in their previous game against Mansfield, was moved centrally into central midfield. So it's a much more defensive left wing back. Then Onyango, 6'5", centre back / holding midfielder, played at right wing back. You would imagine to deal with our kind of aerial threat. So it was a very defensive looking Stockport back five, really, and that had a lot of height to it. And I thought that showed us a lot of respect, but it also showed that the sort of game that Stockport were expecting to be in. And I don't think we're disappointed at all. I think we've got a real identity about us now. And the first few moments or first few minutes of the game, we kind of started as we finished the last couple of games.
Definitely, yeah. I think that was the really pleasing thing to see straight from the kickoff. Straight from the first whistle, we were at them. We didn't. It's something that we've said over the past few weeks that maybe we didn't, dominate the game. We didn't, it wasn't a steamroller, but we had control of the game. And I think it felt like from minute one, we had control for pretty much all of that first half. Obviously, Stockport got a couple of efforts away, but it didn't feel like we were really under it for anything outside of the odd, flashed shot, I guess. Saying that, I mean, that Stockport did have the first kind of, half decent chance of the game. I think it was Jack Diamond with his, cutting in and maybe a little bit fortunate. I think he rode a challenge and the ball kind of found its way back to him, but he had a shot that was deflected over for a corner. And look, aside from everything else that's gone on, I'm actually quite pleased that Jack Diamond's found himself again where he is. It was, obviously a horrendous time for him when he left us and everything subsequently. But I'm just really pleased that he's found his feet in a career again. It was just nice that he didn't make it count yesterday.
Yeah, indeed. He looked threatening at times. You can certainly see why he's been a top player in League One so far this season against teams who are not quite as defensively solid as we are. I think if you give him a couple of yards to work in, he's gonna create something. We did well to really minimise his impact yesterday. You can see in those few moments when he did just get that yard or two that he's a dangerous player. But I think it's telling that in the first half, you're right, Stockport had a couple of moments that they were always in the game. They're a good team. There was two good teams on show. But they only had 4 shots in the whole first half, not a single shot on target as well. And only 26 successful passes actually in our third of the pitch. So we had more than double that in theirs. So yeah, we were in control. I think control was absolutely the right word. Mentioned a few times when our possessions metrics are quite low, maybe quite defensively say that, yeah, but you can control the game even when you haven't got the ball. But I think there was a prime example of that yesterday when we didn't have it. But when we did have it, something that I was really, really impressed with yesterday, and this is a theme throughout the whole game, was we kept hold of the ball for longer periods of time than I would say, usually do or have done previous in the season. But we had that possession in really dangerous areas. I was so impressed with our kind of relentlessness. So when we attacked, and if anyone that listened to the commentary, I think I was a bit of a broken record because I must have mentioned this 5 or 6 times throughout the game. But when we attack, so we get the ball in the box, we drive in there, it gets nodded out. We are the first to drop on it, and then we get another ball in the box, then we have another attack. You just keep the pressure on, and you just don't let Stockport get out. And there were numerous times throughout the whole game, particularly in the first half, where not only did we have an attack, we had sustained periods of pressure. Yeah. That in my opinion, is, as well as our defensive solidity, is what won us the game. Part of it is about just work rate. Part of it is about being switched on. Part of it is about structure and organisation. The fancy term for this these days is something called rest defence. But what it really means is even when you've got the ball, what's your structure behind the ball, ready for the turnover so you can get back on the front foot and then back on the front foot again. And we are exemplary at that. And I think we're getting better and better and better at it. And yesterday, I think, was our best performance of the season over longer periods of the game where that happened time and time again. It was, absolute joy to behold.
Definitely. And I think, you're saying about keeping the ball for longer periods of time. I think what I did enjoy yesterday was when we did have the ball for those longer periods of time, we were still playing like really good football with it. We weren't just kind of holding it and, piddling around with it at the back. We were getting forward and playing it in decent areas. That there was quite a few moves down that right-hand side. It feels like we were trying to target Stockport's left for chunks of the game. And, there was quite a few moments where, some really neat 1-2s and going through and, getting the ball in. I think the one thing that if we had to pull up anything yesterday would probably be the crossing. I thought there was, and to be fair, that also could be said for Stockport. I don't think crossing was necessarily on the cards yesterday for either team. It was a little bit wayward for large chunks of the game, but it was irrelevant in the end, really. But I do just want to take it back to that first effort from Diamond and then the resulting corner, because it something happened at that corner that I called out in our Discord chat, and I said at the time, you can't do that for the whole game, Connor, because Conor McGrandles was cuddling Nathan Lowe, to put it bluntly. He was all over him and he brought it down. And I think, let's be honest, letter of the law, it was a penalty. But nobody appealed for it. Nobody really, I don't know if anybody really saw it, but it was away from where the ball was going. It was away from the trajectory of the ball. So, yeah, it was one of those moments I just thought, need to be careful on that one. And that came back to bite us later on in the game. But, outside of that, wasn't really too much to shout about from them from an attacking point of view, was there?
No, agreed. Yeah, and we'll obviously come back and talk about that moment or a similar moment later in the game. I do just want to come back on the crosses because I know exactly what you're talking about, because there were two crosses that sailed over the bar and you kind of think, oh, that's a bit of a waste. But we put loads of really good balls in the box yesterday as well. And I think that's...
Stop proving me wrong with numbers, Chris.
I'm sorry. Well, while you were talking there, I did just check the numbers. So we put 7 successful crosses in yesterday. They put 4 in. Success rate was basically the same as it is in other games. So... but there was a couple of opportunities where we had to get the ball in the box and it felt like a little bit of a wasted opportunity. Yes. But I think that's massively overshadowed by the fact that we got loads of balls in the box, loads of time in the opposition third in dangerous areas. So yeah, I'm not going to worry about that at all. I think, Stockport might be worrying about it more because they had fewer chances. And when they overhit a couple of crosses, maybe it's a bit more wasteful from their perspective because it's a larger percentage of their chances overall. But, it was just good, Ben. It was just really good. And I want to talk about it forever, but I'm going to let you lead the conversation. I'll chip in as and when I'm instructed to do so. Okay,
right. Well, I'm going through the chances at the minute. According to FOTMob, we had a chance within 2 minutes, which was from Rico Hackett. And then it was all Stockport chances, which were off target until 27 minutes. And then from that resulting one, after 27 minutes, we got it forward. The ball found its way to Rob Street, who did really well under pressure. Nice and calm, kept it. Kept the ball, squeezed it through, and Rico Hackett with, I think it was described on the highlights commentary as a half chance. I would say that even that feels generous with the chance that he had to wrap his foot around it in the way that he did and get it on target. You can talk about it and say that the keeper should have done better with it, because I think he probably should have done. But to get that shot on target through a couple of players that were in front of him and then to end up with it squirming away into the back of the net, the commentary was nowhere near as good as the Imps Plus commentary, obviously. But the commentary says, it was out of nothing. But it was out of nothing from that attack. But I think in the context of the game, even though it was really our first decent effort, it felt like it was probably coming. But it was just a really, really lovely goal. And Rico is continuing in his rich vein of form at the moment that I hope long continues.
Yeah, absolutely. He's been absolutely brilliant recently, hasn't he? I think there's a few things to unpick here. Firstly, you mentioned it being less than a half chance. Obviously, that's correct. Keeper definitely should have done better. I think you were surprised by how early Riga hit it. Obviously, hit it first time, and I don't think any of the defenders were expecting him to strike it first time. But it did, went in brilliant. But I think the question for me is like, why did it happen, or how did we create that opportunity? Because it did it felt like it came out of nowhere in that moment, as you mentioned. But there were plenty of other moments that kind of leading up to that, and before that moment happened itself, that would suggest that there was a very definite strategy there. That very specific moment, I didn't even expect an attack to happen, because I remember in commentary I was talking about Josh Honohan, because John mentioned the January transfer window, because there wasn't a huge amount happening. The ball was back with Wickens and a couple of times. And then he very rightly interrupted me because a goal was about to happen. But you mentioned overloading the right side, which we did countless times yesterday. It was clearly targeted. So I think if you look at our formation on paper, it'll be 4-4-2, but the reality is it was 4-4-2. Yes, because the front four were really fluid. They always played really close to each other as well, often congregating on the right-hand side, but both, inverted commas, wingers were very central at times and overloaded the ball side. And regularly in the first half, we favoured that right side, particularly from George Wickens' clearance. So the whole sequence of play starts from a goal kick. Bradley gives it to Wickens. People may wonder why on earth is a centre-back passing the ball to a goalkeeper on a goal kick? But the reason is to try and draw a defender, not an attacker, onto them. Hopefully there's space in behind, and you can't press one side of the pitch until the ball's passed. And if it's going to pass to a defender, they're normally on one side of the pitch. If it passes to the goalkeeper, they're normally in the middle. So you can't direct the play one direction until a touch has been taken. Nothing came off the first clearance from Wickens, but it ended up back at him a few moments later, and then he launched it again, and we just dropped on the second ball, as we did countless times. Go along, attack the first ball. Freddie won a good few of his first challenges, but he occupied defenders even when he didn't win them. And we, more often than not, we were the team to drop on that loose ball, and then we're attacking in the final third. Morden drives forward into Rob Street, does well to hold it up, lays it off to Hackett, bang, goal. But as much as that moment felt like it came out of nowhere, there were loads and loads and loads of moments leading up to that where we had that exact same phase of play. We were clearly targeting that side of the pitch. We were dropping on the second balls, and then we were playing with really fluid and creative front four. And yeah, I would say we deserved to go in ahead at half time, certainly. And how that goal came, you don't really care, do you? The fact that we had scored was deserved.
Definitely, yeah. And I think the thing that proved that for me was that between our goal and half time, Stockport didn't have a single effort. And we continued to push forward and try and get a second. Honestly, I don't think anybody could have complained if we went in 2-0 up at half time. I think again, without completely dominating the game, we controlled it. We dictated the pace of that first half from minute 1 to minute 45. I think we just looked really strong, and it's what we do as a Lincoln City side at this point. We don't have. You mentioned it earlier. We've got the identity now, and particularly at home. I know when I think we've spoken to Jez. I think this was on the podcast where he said, we want to play. We feel like we've got an identity at home now, and it's trying to convert that into away performances as well. It really did feel like, oh, this is what we do when we're not at home. This is how we take the game to teams. I think previously we've sat there and gone, come on then, have a go at us. Whereas now we go, no, we're going to make you play. And we force teams into playing a specific way. And if they try and bypass that, then we adjust. And I think we do it really, really well. And that was like exemplified yesterday. There was a couple of more efforts that I wanted to talk about. There was the Tom Bayliss effort that that was from distance, deflected out for a corner. And then Moylan had an effort that was palmed away. That was so close to being 2-0. I mean, Rico was steaming in. The defender managed to get a foot on it. And then Rico hit the bar direct from a corner. I mean, I don't think there was much else that could have happened in that first half, was there?
Yeah, you're right. You're right. And you mentioned right at the start of that piece about no one could have complained it as being 2-0 up if we were 2-0 up at that point. And I think after the first goal goes in, considering the subsequent chances, yeah, I agree with you. The fact that Rico's goal came, again, air quotes, out of nowhere, and it was obviously a low percentage chance. I think 1-0 scoreline was probably a fair reflection of the first half overall. But I just want to touch on, you mentioned identity, because, yeah, we've mentioned that recently we've definitely got an identity at home now. And you mentioned Jez said that he feels that we are really good in that, but we're searching for that identity away. When I heard him say that, and particularly after we changed shape against Blackpool away, and I know we started the game well and obviously conceded a couple of goals, but it was a different shape. It was a slightly different style, more counter-attacking style, wasn't it? And I thought, that's what we're looking for as our away identity. But yesterday, it just felt like us. It didn't feel like we were away from home. It didn't feel like we had a specific kind of away style. We just played how we play. We play to our strengths. If that exact game had taken place at Sincil Bank, I feel it would have gone exactly the same way.
Yeah.
It looked like a home performance from our perspective. And that was really, really pleasing. Really front foot. And something that's become a theme over the last couple of weeks is when we've scored, we've taken the lead, we haven't sat back or haven't felt like we've been pushed back too far. And it's felt like we've been actively going after the killer goal. Last week against Cardiff, when we scored the second, they only had one shot until the end of the game. And then you mentioned there, after we scored, Stockport didn't have another attempt on goal until half time. So not only are we scoring first, we're now scoring first and then staying on the front foot, which is something that maybe we weren't doing as much of earlier in the season. We've often scored the first goal, but we seem to be pushing on from that moment now, which is great.
Yeah, I think it kind of, I don't know how to put this without sounding like I'm calling people out, but it feels like, we've said before that obviously there's two teams that are trying to play football. They will. It's not that we're sitting back; it's the other teams come into it, and the games will always be different. You will always have, if a team goes 1-0 down, they will be desperately trying to get back in the game, and that's usually when it feels like we're sitting back. I don't know if anything has necessarily changed, because it just feels like that's not happening as much. At least over these past couple of games. I mean, like you say, we don't want to get carried away with anything, but it certainly feels that way, which is, it's
maybe it's confidence,
and
you're right. Like, we don't want to get carried away, because that's when football bites you on the arse, isn't it? Just as soon as you think you've cracked it, then a bad performance comes, and you get a bloody nose. So absolutely don't want to get carried away. But hey, if we can't celebrate two outstanding performances against two really, really good teams, two promotion rivals, as football fans, we need to allow ourselves to enjoy it and to pick up the bits that are good. And we'll always pick up the bits that need a bit of work as well. But we were so good yesterday, so good. So let's just for once allow ourselves just to revel in. It was an outstanding performance and a deserved win.
Yeah, absolutely. So, one thing that I did want to touch on was that it felt a bit tetchy yesterday. Throughout I don't know if that was the case from your perspective, but definitely felt like there was something bubbling in the game. Obviously I think there was an early card for Rico Hackett, I think. Let me just go through the timeline. So, there was an early card for Rico Hackett, then Onyango. Sorry, I will get names right. I'm getting worse than Gary. Onyango got a yellow card on half an hour, and there was only 2 yellow cards in the second half as well. But it felt very tetchy. There was a couple of moments. I mean, there was one particularly late on in the first half, which forced Tom Bayliss off, which looked like a bit of a nasty foul from Jack Diamond. In real time, it looked really nasty, and then when you watch it back, it's like, okay. he's just kind of hooked his foot as he's gone away from him. But yeah, did it feel like that to you? Because it certainly felt like there was something sort of brewing under the surface.
Yeah, I don't know. I didn't get that feeling that there was a big moment that could lead to a red card that was imminent. It always felt like there was something could happen, because I felt like we were keeping Stockport at arm's length, but that's because we were defending well, not because they were poor. And it only would take one mistimed challenge for the whole kind of picture of the game to change. I can't say it felt like there was any kind of violence or any like tetchy nature in terms of like bubbling under the surface that I noticed. It just felt like a game that was being played, a very tight game that was being played by two good teams. Like we mentioned, we controlled it. We certainly did, but it never felt that we were comfortable as such. And yeah, I felt like anything could happen. And it did in the second half. Mr. Brad Hills, we're going to talk about him a little bit. I'd like to talk about him a little bit because he became a bit of a pantomime villain in the second half, didn't he?
He did indeed, yeah. So, well, we will talk about Brad Hills and the rest of the game on the other side of a little advert break, which we will go to now. So if you're listening, you'll hear an advert. If you're watching live, we will just have a little bit of a chat with everybody. But before we do jump to an ad break, I just want to say, get yourself subscribed on YouTube if you're not already, because we are agonizingly close to 2,000 subscribers now, which in YouTube terms, that doesn't sound like a huge amount, but for us, it's massive. So get involved. We are, painfully close to 2,000 now. Yeah. While you listen to an advert, go and get subscribed if you're not. There you go. That's how we do these things. All right, we'll see you on the other side of this. Ad break.
Hello,
Right.
YouTube.
Hello to everybody watching live. Let's see who we got in. Richard's loads of people in tonight, mate. It's brilliant. Richard's in. Evening, everyone. Devon Imp is in. How we doing, mate? Stats are with us. Chris is on tonight. There we go. Ollie's in. How we doing, dude? Adam is in. Evening, all. Steve is in. Mr. Barton. Evening, everybody. Awesome job yesterday, Chris. There we go.
Very kind.
Adam also says, it's been a while since we've had such a good December. Great Christmas vibes. 100%. Ian London Imp is in. It says, is it Dare to Dream time now after the excellent December run? We'll talk about that a bit in the second half. Skipworth 1000 says, I agree with Gary. If there's no clash of colours, we should play in red and white stripes. 100%.
Yeah,
100%.
I understand the reason why it doesn't happen that often. I know you got to get the sponsors so much kind of exposure, but from a purely kind of purist perspective, and particularly yesterday because it was red versus blue. There's nothing more traditional than that, is there? It was great. Yeah, I'm a big fan of home kit away when it doesn't clash.
It's big like Sabutio vibes, isn't it? Like
Yes.
Default Sabutio team vibes. John Davison's in, says evening. Let's have a look. Kate Jackson's in, says evening, all watching from the gym again. Actually feeling optimistic about our promotion chances. Ideally like to kind of sign a consistent goal threat in the window, and if they get promotion is on. We'll come to that. I think there's a something to be said about that. Let's have a look. So if a Ben and Emily pod is a Bemily special, is this one a blamming?
I don't mind it. I don't mind that at all.
I mean, I think I might have mentioned this on the pod before, but it's better than a bris. But there we go. Let's have a look. Who else is in? Steve Turner's in, says evening fellas, enjoyed Mr. Lamming on the commentary yesterday, great result. Stu Well says, yeah, but have you seen Shane Duffy and Brian McFadden live? No, and neither of you, because you saw Keith Duffy and Brian McFadden live. Last week me and Stu went to a comedy show, and then as the final sort of surprise for the evening, they brought out Keith Duffy and Brian McFadden from off of Boyzone and Westlife to close the show, which was bizarre. And also the second time I've seen Brian McFadden live, but let's not talk about that one. Let's have a look. Keith says, evening everyone, after the last 2 wins we have to be considered at least playoff material now. With Collins out though, I think we need a striker who can hold the ball up. Freddie gives us all but can't see the progression. Jovan showed that made me think he'd be our first $1 million+ sale. I desperately want Freddie to prove me wrong, and I hope he does. We'll have a conversation about that shortly. Rach says, hello from the dining room with your mum and Nana. Hello. Yes, my mum and Nana are currently up, and they are watching live for some reason. Let's look. Sue's in. Evening, as I think we know to sign Rico up, as heard there's plenty of interest as he's on fire but out of contract in the summer. There are a few rumours around that one, but yeah, interesting one on that one. Let's have a look. Reginald Wilson says, is our league position beginning to intimidate opposition teams? Good question. We can touch on that one in the second half. Oh, actually, that's a good point. We mentioned the tetchy nature. We haven't mentioned the challenge on Adam Reach. So we'll come on to that.
Good point.
Because that was a nasty old challenge. That was on Yango, wasn't it?
Yeah.
So-
He got a booking, and then he had to go off injured before half time for February, didn't he? Which
Yeah.
actually really helped Stockport from an attacking point of view. But yeah, it was a nasty challenge.
Yeah, absolutely. So there we go. That is all of the comments. Let us know if you are in. Give us a shout out live. And like I say, get yourself subscribed because it's always good fun. And we will come back in if you're ready, Chris. In 3, 2, 1. And there we go. Thank you for the advert. And thank you to everybody that's currently chatting with us live on YouTube. It's always a pleasure. One comment that did get mentioned was Keith said, anyone who's played football knows the Stockport lad deliberately took Reach out. So that was on Yango, and that was the challenge that led to him getting booked, which led to Reach getting a bit of a barracking from the Stockport fans, which I thought was a bit harsh. I mean, the challenge was pretty bad, wasn't it? You know, he just, he basically just went straight through the back of Adam Reach. And I felt that was I think that was probably where saying that things felt tetchy started from for me. Surprised that. Well, I mean, I wonder if he stayed on the pitch, if he would have actually lasted 90 minutes, because he seemed to have a little bit of needle about him, didn't he?
Yeah, good point. I kind of forgot about that, but it was quite a big moment in the game because not only did he get a yellow card, Onyenga had to go off injured not long later and was then replaced by Jaden Fevrier, who was a very, very different type of player, playing in the same role initially, but offered a lot more for Stockport. So, it was quite a big moment. It's interesting I'd imagine he'd have probably made that change anyway from an attacking perspective if the scoreline remained as it did. But yeah, that moment itself was a little bit naughty from him on Adam Reach.
Absolutely. And then, Reach, he got, got booed quite a lot. It was not the best. Not the best reception for him there. But you have mentioned there that Fevrier came on at half-time, or just before half-time, sorry. He tore us a new one at their place last season. He was outstanding for them. And I don't know if that was a direct result of that, but Stockport came out early on in the second half, and they looked like a bit of a changed side. You know, they looked really threatening going forward. And the other one, the other player for me who kind of turned it around a little bit in that second half, it was Mr. Hills. So Brad Hills became, as you just said in the break, became a bit of a pantomime villain. But yeah, you know, he really turned it on. He forced a free kick from Tom Hamer relatively early on in the second half, which forced a good save from George Wickens from Ollie Norwood.
Indeed, yeah, that definitely was a foul as well,
Yes,
wasn't it?
was.
Yeah, it was the most kind of foully foul that they could possibly be. They just completely stopped him running. I was actually quite impressed with Hills as a footballer, not so much as a bloke in terms of his kind of antics. There's a bit of the Chris Maguire about him, wasn't there? But as a footballer, I was quite impressed with him at centre back. He won the second most duels out of anyone in the game, second most clearances. Like, he was a good defender, but yeah, complete pantomime villain. Because a couple of times during the second half, he went down feigning a head injury and then jumped straight back up again. And it's as if it was so incredibly obvious he was not injured at all. A little bit of the boy who cried wolf, maybe. But it was him also that won the penalty, which we'll touch on in a moment. But in that moment that led to the free kick you just mentioned, he stepped out from the centre of defence and really strode forward. And he was a bit of a threat there. But that was off the back of Stockport having a bit of control themselves for that first few minutes of the second half. They had a lot more of the ball in our half of the pitch than they did in the first half. They played two up. Nathan Lowe played next to Carl Wooten, which gave them certainly more of a focal point, I think, going forward. And they were good. Like, again, we mentioned this against Cardiff. You've got to credit the opposition. It's obvious that Stockport are a good team. We kept them at arm's length for the majority of the game, but there was certainly a spell leading up to their penalty award that they were the better team up to that point in the second half. They had the majority of their chances in that moment in time, and they were decent. But yeah, Brad Hill certainly found himself at the centre of most talking points throughout the game.
Absolutely did. I am just looking through, as I say, on FOTMob as we go through this, to kind of pull out the shots and the key moments. Just before Ollie Norwood's free kick, according to FOTMob, Tendai Darikwa had a shot on 48 minutes. Would you like to see where that shot was from, Chris?
I know where that shot was from because I got the same thing open on my screen.
That is according to FOTMob. Those of you that are watching, you can see apparently Tendai Darikwa had a shot from the edge of our own 6-yard box, which just went wide with an XG of 0.02. That is ridiculous. I don't think I've ever seen that reported as a shot. But yeah, I thought that was quite funny.
Yeah.
So yeah, shortly after that, that free kick from Ollie Norwood, we will come on to the penalty. Brad Hill's going through, and yeah, in real time, you look at it, you think, that's clumsy from Conor McGrandles, and my opinion hasn't really changed since then. There's no malice in it. I just think it's a clumsy challenge. You know, Brad Hills is good at what he does. From what we saw yesterday, and what he does is trying to win free kicks in dangerous positions. I mean, obviously the one with Tom Haber was pretty stonewall, but previous to that, he went down. I think was it Sonny Bradley he was tussling with, and he kind of went down clutching his face, and then when the ref didn't give anything, immediately jumps up, and you think, oh come on mate, give it a rest. But yeah, I don't think there was anything necessarily to complain about the penalty. I mean, it wasn't stonewall, but if it wasn't given for us, we'd be absolutely livid.
Yeah, in game, felt it was soft. Didn't really see what had happened. Watching it back, no complaints really. Brad Hills probably makes it look more of a foul than it is, but he just stops running because he makes a run kind of towards the byline. McGrandles has got two arms around him, which is why Hills has gone down, but he just completely stops, which kind of makes McGrandles fall into him. Yeah. And it's clever. Conor McGrandles has two arms around him. Just before Brad Hill stops, he puts both his arms out to kind of show to the ref, I'm not doing anything bad here. It's a foul. It's a foul. I think McGrandles is unlucky because that sort of thing happens quite a lot in the box, but you did mention it earlier in the pod about there was a couple of moments in the first half where there was some holding going on that seemed to be unpunished. So yeah, I've got no complaints about it. No complaints at all. It was a penalty. It was frustrating because we've been brilliant in the first half. Of course, Wickens makes a good save, but then followed in by Fevrier. I know expected goals doesn't tell a whole story, but I do think it's interesting that obviously because it was saves, there's two shots involved in that moment, both of them adding up to like 1.2, 1.3, and Stockport only had 1.56 for the whole game. So the vast majority of their kind of big chances, it was just those two big moments. And of course, it did lead to a goal. But I didn't think we needed to change a great deal because we were doing okay. Stockport had certainly improved. I don't feel like we'd been worse. I just felt like Stockport had improved up until that point. Yeah. But what I've been so impressed with in recent weeks is not only have we scored the first goal, when we have been pegged back, we've generally gone back on the front foot again. And we've looked like the team that's been most likely to score from that point onwards again. We obviously did it against Cardiff, did it against Barnsley 2 or 3 weeks ago. And we did it once again yesterday, albeit waiting till the very end of the game, and it wasn't quite as free-flowing, didn't have as many moments of kind of constant pressure as we did in the first half, but we did have those moments still. I did feel as the game wore on, if there was going to be a winner, it would have been us. I would have absolutely taken a point quite happily, even to be honest, at half-time if he'd offered me that, but obviously, particularly after their penalty went in, or their follow-in of the penalty went in. But it wasn't to be.
No, absolutely. And then I think there was maybe, I'm just running through the chances now. Couple more. Norwood had a shot from the edge of the box. Fevrier had another one from just inside the box. And then it kind of shifted again. And I think this is something that we noticed yesterday, and we noticed it against Cardiff. And it's like you just said, when we've been pegged back, we've still got that belief and we've still got that desire. And I think, to be honest with you, a lot of it is going to stem from the experienced nature of players like Tendai Darikwa and Adam Reach and Sonny Bradley. If you've got those calm heads around it, it's like, okay, it feels to me like they're going, we know we're good enough to win this. Let's just take a beat and let's go again. And I hate that phrase, let's go again. But it is genuinely like, that they'll just take a minute and go, we've got this. Like we know that we're good at what we do. So even though we've just conceded, let's reset, let's take a breath, and let's have another go. And that's what we did for the rest of the second half. I think it felt to me like the control was regained after the penalty. And we just continued to put pressure on. A couple of really good chances. I know Rob Street hit the post, which that one felt agonising in the moment. We were sat there and just thought, it looked really close. And in the replay, you see, you think, it's actually hit the post. It was just, it felt like it was coming, didn't it?
It did, yeah. Just looking back through the chances again, and you mentioned they had a couple of kind of pot shots really after they scored the penalty, nothing too clear cut. The game seemed to kind of then hit a bit of a lull. Everything had been so frantic, and then it just settled. And sort of 60-ish minutes, I felt like we started to get back into the ascendancy. Just looking through the chance map again, we had the next 9 shots in the game went to us.
Yeah.
So okay, we left it late to actually get the goal, but there was loads of moments before that we potentially could have. Rob Street, as you mentioned there, massive chance. He's really unlucky not to score. And again, this is where me being a broken record comes back in again, because what led to Rob Street's chance was one attack, ball in the box, headed away, reworked all the way back to Conor McGranders, who took up a brilliant deep position to allow Tendai Darikwa to recycle back to him. McGranders hits a diag, as we did regularly yesterday, 2v1 on the far side, works to Jeffries, ball in the box, header, almost a goal. But it's just not one attack. It's 2 or 3 attacks. And a period of sustained pressure, and it almost led to a goal. And then even our penalty, even the second goal for us, it comes after a period of sustained pressure. Wasn't the first attack, 2 or 3 attacks, and then obviously Rico gets fouled to win the penalty. But it wasn't just a counter attack, a flash in the pan. It was another period of sustained pressure with real composure around the box. And for want of a better word, I would say it kind of forced Stockport into the mistake. They kind of panicked in their own box there. Jack Hunt, I think it was, that brought Rico down, and then balls of steel, Rob Street.
Absolutely. It's a name you've got to be very careful with when you talk about him there, the guy who fouled Rico, Mr. Jack Hunt. But it was one of those moments where I would have been thoroughly satisfied with a point. I was quite happy to sit there and go, 4 points from 2 games in a very tricky run that tricky on paper. Just to get that last minute penalty. It's been a while since we've had, a penalty, I think. I think we've only had 3 this season now. But it was just a delight. And then watching Street step up in the absence of James Collins, a man who I think in the Discord chat yesterday, we were talking about it, saying he needs to have a couple of good, few good touches to get his confidence back up. Coming away from a game yesterday with a goal and an assist, I just hope it's done him the world of good, and it feels like it did. His interview afterwards was really positive as well. But you will not see a cooler penalty than that. Just really, really calm along the ground into the bottom corner, sends everybody behind the goal into absolute rapture, and sends us all at home away from Boxing Day with a nice fuzzy feeling in our stomachs.
Oh yeah, Oh yeah, what a moment! I did my best to keep my mouth shut in that moment. Like I have my fists clenched just so much in terms of shaking fists, but of course, my commentary did my best not to be too excited. But I was very excited in that moment. It kind of felt like a bonus. Again, when you then finish the game and you have won it, and then you reflect on the full 90 minutes, like we were by far the better team in terms of chances created. Stockport, yeah, we mentioned the only real key big chance they had was their penalty and then the shot that immediately followed in. So did we deserve to win the game? Yeah, I think we did on the balance of the 90 minutes, but we weren't winning the game up until the 92nd minute. So when you do win it in that last minute, it's just, yeah, it feels even sweeter to drive home, yeah, off the back of a last couple of minute victory. But I just think it's just another notch, isn't it? It's another step in the right direction, but it's another boost to the confidence in the camp. But I think in the fan base, there's a real belief, I feel now, that bloody hell, we really are good, actually. We're where we deserve to be. Because I think earlier in the season, it was only a few weeks ago, you and I discussed this and said, we're obviously doing brilliantly in terms of our league position, but there were a couple of question marks over certain elements of the game. And, well, they couldn't have answered those queries any strongly, could they? Shows what we know, doesn't it?
Yeah, it's bizarre, really. Like, yeah, the only thing that I can think of is that scene from The Matrix where they're both watching Neo on the screen and he's like, what's he doing? He goes, he's beginning to believe. It's like, that's me. At the minute, I'm like, I don't know if I can. Am I allowed to believe that this could be the season? I mean, you know, there's precedent for it. Teams that have been in second on Christmas Day traditionally end up in the top six. And I know that's, you know, that doesn't mean we can stop playing and go, right, that's it, fine, we're in the top six at the end of the season, lads. It's going to be a tough slog, but we've put in so much groundwork to get to this point. It just feels, it feels like there's so much to believe in at the moment. And it's just great. Talking of things to believe in, I do want to highlight Ivan Varfolomeev's second half yesterday. He came on at half time in place of Tom Bayliss. And I thought he looked really comfortable. You know, he looked really, really solid. Everything that he did, it just looked natural to him. You know, I don't think he gave the ball away. I don't think he was, you know, made any errors of judgment. I think he got the ball, he passed the ball, you know, he attacked the ball, he attacked the second balls, and he just looked good.
He did. Yeah, obviously it's a shame that Tom Bayliss had to go off injured. Hope it's nothing too serious, because it's obviously he's been great this season. His composure on the ball and his delivery is superb. But yeah, like Ivan is still a little bit of an unknown quantity to us, because we haven't seen that much of him, certainly in the league. And I think it was a big 45 for him to come on in such an important game at half time and to not look out of place at all. It's also worth pointing out that it was his lovely pass into Rico that then won the penalty. So he obviously doesn't get anything for that. But I noticed, I'm sure lots of other people did too. It's really good. Really good. He was, slotted in seamlessly, I think is the best way of putting it. And again, really hope Tom Bayliss is okay. But if the worst happens and Tom is due for a spell on the sidelines, I would have no issues with Ivan taking his position in the team and playing next to Conor McGrandles off the back of that 45 minutes that we saw yesterday.
Absolutely. Right. That probably puts a little bow on Stockport. We will come on to Barnsley in just a second. I did throw the call out to questions briefly into the Patreon Discord, and I don't know if you've seen this, Chris.
I haven't.
Okay. Well, the Patreon Discord, if you go back into it, is a flood of dairy-based puns. Because when I said, have we got any questions? There was a couple of Christmassy related ones. We'll do them very quickly. Which player or staff member would you have liked to have had round for Christmas dinner? That was from Catherine Impey.
Oh, you go first. You go first. I'll think. I guess you've seen these and had a chance to think of a funny answer.
To be honest with you, I haven't, because the rest of the stuff was all cheese-based gags. But yeah, I will. I'll go with Michael Skibala just because I think it'd be nice.
Okay, that was my gut instinct. I'm going to say Chris Cohen because just gives me the opportunity to chew his ear off and ask what he looks out for when he sits in the stand for the first half of games.
Fair enough. And the next one was your best and worst Christmas presents. I think we've covered that one already earlier on in the thing. But David asked the best cheese gag. And I said, do you mean a joke about cheese or like a Christmas cracker joke? And he said, literally a joke about cheese. And then that just led to an absolute flood of them in the Discord, which was...
I'll have to log in and check these out.
Yeah, I mean, I was particularly proud of two of mine that I came out with. This as a, where are we? How do you tempt a grizzly out of the woods, Chris?
Go on.
Come on, bear.
Good. Yeah, like that. Got
Yeah.
time for that.
Yep. And I said, I don't think I'm allowed to tell jokes about cheese. My wife didn't like the last one I told. She went absolutely Emmental. Not as good, that one. Not as good.
It's not as good. I'd like only because I'm too stupid to get it straight away. I think that's all it was. It was the joke was above my station.
Yeah. And what do you call cheese that's not yours? Nacho cheese. There we go.
Yes. There we
Right.
go.
Okay, that's enough of that. Right. Sorry to anyone listening, but we will now talk about Barnsley because we are away at Oakwell on Monday night in Crimbo Limbo, as we call it. That weird time between Christmas and New Year where nobody knows what day it is, what time it is, and all you're eating is crisps and all you're drinking is booze. So I had a good old chat with Josh from Red All Over earlier on today. The preview is up on YouTube if you want to go and have a look. He is not particularly positive about the game on Monday from a Barnsley perspective, and we were talking off air, and we are quite positive about this game from a Lincoln City perspective. And we just hope that doesn't somehow end up as complacency, Chris.
Yeah, really hope so, because I'm feeling so confident about this. Of course, we're recording on a Saturday. It's Christmas. Time basically just doesn't exist, does it, between Christmas and New Year? So I've had a lot longer to kind of prep this than I normally do, and I've gone into far more detail than is really necessary. And the more I've dug, the more confident I've got, and to the point where I'm kind of concerned that I'm complacent. And as you mentioned earlier, football has a tendency to bite you on your arse as soon as you start to get a bit carried away. So I really hope that that's not the case. But I feel this is a real mismatch in terms of styles. And of course, we've recently played and beaten Barnsley convincingly. And I don't think they're a great deal different. I don't think they can be a great deal different than they were that evening. I just think our strengths completely align with their weaknesses. I think the stuff that they're bad at, we're really good at, and we can punish them for it. And the things that they're good at probably don't worry us too much. So, yeah, I mean, I can go into a bit of detail about that in a moment, but that's I'm feeling confident, and you said you are as well. Yeah,
I mean, I was sat there thinking, I did a little bit of research before I spoke to Josh. And I thought, this feels, obviously, you mentioned there, we've played them, we'll have played them twice in December by full time on Monday in the league, which is weird in and of itself. But obviously, we're coming away from, a 3-1 win at home, then going away in such a short space of time. Like you say, I don't think there'd be enough to change a huge amount in their squad, except maybe a bit of belief. But the run that they've had recently, since playing us, I think they've lost 2 and won 1. It doesn't feel like that belief is currently there within the fan base, at least. By the sounds of it, that they're in desperate need of a couple of centre backs in the in the January window. The ones they've got are aging a little bit, and they're maybe just not up to snuff. Josh was saying to me that it feels like there's much like we said last season, I think it was, there's always an individual mistake or two somewhere lying around in that Barnsley side that will cost them goals and it will cost them a game. And essentially, it feels to a lot of the Barnsley fan base that they're not trying to keep it tight and stop teams from scoring. The way that they're winning games at the moment is simply by outscoring other teams. They are bottom of the league for clean sheets. I think they've kept 2 all season. And that, defensively, they're not necessarily the soundest side in the division. So it feels to me like this is an opportunity for us to go there with our strong defensive nature, and not necessarily shut up shop, but we will be able to keep them out as much as we can. If you're a betting person, I'd probably say this would be a both teams to score kind of game, because they've got some decent attacking threats. But defensively, they're not all there at the minute.
Yeah, defensively, they're really poor. And I don't think that's a kind of an out there statement. You mentioned only kept 2 clean sheets all season, worst in the league. Conceded the 4th most goals out of any team in League One. Have scored the 4th most as well. So they're certainly the entertainers of the league at the moment. It is kind of a will try and score one more goal than you do, and when it works, when it does click for them in an attacking sense, they're really threatening. By the way, a couple of things that gave me some confidence though is that they're very reliant on 2 players. Obviously, Davis Keeler-Dunn playing up top for them, not the most physical striker at all. I wouldn't even say he's particularly a centre forward in terms of profile, but he's been playing there and he's the league's top goal scorer with 11 goals. Reyes Cleary, who we kept quiet in the reverse fixture, but has been excellent for them so far this season, has scored 5, 6 assists as well. And then other than those 2, no one in their team has scored more than 2 goals. So you keep those 2 players quiet, you'd expect them to maybe not put too much away. Despite scoring the 4th most goals, they've only got the 16th highest expected goal. So that would indicate that over the course of the season, they're not creating a huge amount of clear-cut chances. They're clinical when they get them, and they're scoring a few from range as well. They are only 18th for touches in the box. They're 15th for big chances created. And I think there's a couple of interesting things here is that they've got the 4th fewest amount or percentage of their shots are taken inside the area. Again, that kind of aligns with the XG in that all of these numbers paint a picture in that, they're scoring plenty of goals, they're taking plenty of shots, but they're not creating a huge number of high quality chances from really, really good areas. So even though they are scoring a lot, if things continue, you can expect their goal scoring numbers to drop a little bit. But what they desperately need is they need their defensive performances to improve because they are pretty woeful at the back. And the ball is in their third of the pitch the majority of the time compared to other teams in League One. The 6th most out of any team in League One. Interesting that we're actually bang opposite. So the ball is in our opposition's third, the 6th most out of any team. So that suits us hugely. Like I said before, everything just aligns really nicely with us, and including the game that we played against them in their previous 4 matches. They lost 3-1 to us, which of course we know all about. They beat Leyton Orient 3-2, lost away at Exeter 3-0, and then yesterday against Mansfield lost 3-2 at home after being 2-0 up. And I looked through each of those goals to think, where did they all come from? And of those last few goals, I've written down here. So 2 of them were penalties. Firstly, one of them was a bit, I think, probably quite a harsh handball. Other one was completely self-inflicted, stupid back pass to the goalkeeper that was sort of head height, and caused a penalty after a bit of a mix-up. 5 of those 11 goals were just quite simply from balls delivered into the box from wide. They're just really poor at defending their area. 2 of them were just big punts down the middle. From the goalkeeper, one against us, directly off kickoff from George Wickens, another one on Saturday. One was from being dispossessed in the middle of the pitch, playing out and getting caught on the counter-attack. And the other one was Rico Hackett's opener for us, which was really good interchange and interplay. And I just kind of looked at all those goals and thought, there's 11 goals conceded there. I would say 8 of them were preventable from just good organisation and good defending. And I just don't think we would have conceded anywhere near that amount of goals from the chances that led to those goals for Barnsley. They've also, what's interesting, I was looking at this last bit really, is they like to see a lot of the ball, 55-ish% of it. But every other team in League One has clearly identified that they're poor aerially because they've faced the highest number of long balls against them. So obviously they've played against almost everyone else in the league so far this season, different styles. It shows that the general consensus is where teams are opting to go a little bit more direct against them because it's a weakness of Barnsley. They're really poor at defending crosses. We've put in the 2nd most number of crosses in League One so far this season, and we've got the 3rd best accuracy from crosses. So balls in the box, aerial dominance, I just can't see anything other than a Lincoln win. And that's what makes me feel really complacent, because it doesn't get handed to you on the plate. We've still got to keep those performance levels up.
Yeah, 100%.
But everything points towards a Lincoln win here. If the best version of us turns up, our strengths massively outweigh Barnsley's kind of weakness. And that's almost like we could double down on them a little bit. So I'm going to go for it. Yeah, I think quite a convincing Lincoln win here.
See, I said on the preview 2-1, and I think I'm probably going to stick with that, because firstly, it'd just make 3-2-1 wins back to back, which would be, that'd be quite nice. But aside from that, I think, Barnsley do have that attacking threat. And it's that man, and we've mentioned this, Kate's just said this in the chat, with Davis Keeler-Dunn, says, the weirdest thing I always find about Keeler-Dunn is that commentators seem obliged to refer to him by his full name and other players by his surname only. I think we spoke about that the other week, didn't we?
Yeah, I think when we was previewing the previous Barnsley game.
Yeah, it's a player who you have to call Davis Keeler-Dunn, and it seems to be double-barreled surnames, as Kate also says with Keeler is Potter. But yeah, look, I feel confident, and I think it's easy to feel confident after two of these, games back to back that we have done phenomenally well in, and hopefully we can keep it rolling. But I think that actually brings me to something that we wanted to chat about before. We've got a couple of minutes left, I think, on the pod. So we wanted to talk about something that we spoke about on episode 328 of the Stacey West podcast, where we were looking ahead to December. And we were talking about, the games that we had and where we could possibly go, how we would do. Obviously, a bit of doom and gloom from previous Decembers. And I would like to throw some quotes out at you, Chris, because, it's always nice to think about things. I said, if we play to our strength, I think 10 points might be doable, but wildly optimistic. But outside Cardiff and Stockport, I think 7 points is achievable from these 5 games. And you said, we have a 3-point buffer. I reckon we can lose a game, then look at the averages. Realistically, do we expect 9 points from 5 games? No, it's unfair to expect that. Maybe I expect 6 points, but that feels tough. If we can get through the next 5 games with 6 points, I think we'll be in and around it. The best version of us beats Cardiff, and I do expect Blackpool to improve under Everett. So I thought we would get 7 points in 5 games. You thought we could potentially get 6 points in 5 games. And we're sat here with 10 points from 4 games.
Good, isn't it?
Christmas!
Yeah.
It's been a very good December so far. I mean, this is just... It's blown away everybody's expectations, hasn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. And what's mad is we're so confident now going into Barnsley, expecting 3 points against them, and that would be 13 points from 5 games. None of us in our wildest dreams thought that was even possible 4 games ago, did we? So yeah, it's a brilliant place to be. And looking at it from the other perspective, just to add a little bit of balance, is Barnsley do start games at home. In both halves pretty well. We don't have a brilliant record, but we do concede first, mainly because we hardly ever do it. If that happens, then we could lose. And if we do lose, it'd be disappointing, but it also means that we've got the points in the bag already that we expected to have, or more than we expected to have over the 5 games. But God, what an opportunity though, Ben, because I really am confident about this game. And what if that, what if we do get 13 points from those 5 games? What if?
It's ridiculous. And then you consider that if we do get 13 points from 5 games, the 2 points that we didn't get are, 2 points that people got really angry about. I don't
Some
get it.
people.
People. You know what I mean? Like when I say people, I mean a small subsection of the fan base that were angry on social media. But 13 points from 15 in December is a possibility that we're looking at. Hell, 10 points from 15. I think when I suggested that 10 points might be some sort of internal target from the club, I think if you go back and watch the video, I think you may have actually scoffed briefly because it sounded ludicrous. And we're sat here with 10 points with a game to spare.
Yeah.
Just phenomenal return. And that at what point do we look at the table and start to get a bit excited? Because we keep saying it every season. Oh, you look at the table after 10 games. Oh, you look at the table after, at Christmas. Oh, you look at the table at halfway. You look at the table at the end of January. When are we allowed to get a bit excited about this, Chris?
Well, I seem to remember Michael mentions this quite a bit in his press conferences. He's ever the professional and often says, it's just about one game, and he knows it's a cliche, and it is about just being consistent in performance, etc., etc. But he does often make a point to say in his press conferences that the fans are allowed to get excited. So if Michael's given us permission, I think we're allowed. I'm so conscious of not getting carried away because I don't want to be disappointed if we don't get there.
Yeah.
But what's given me such confidence over the last handful of games is it's the consistency in performance. It's not just that we're getting on the right side of results. We're playing really well and deserving them. And if our performance level continues, then you expect our points tally to be pretty good between now and the end of the season. Obviously, there's still a long way to go, but I'm getting excited now. If you can't be excited as a Lincoln City fan, being second in the league going into the new year, then when the hell can you?
That's a very fair point. So we will leave this podcast with the permission to get excited, fully embraced by myself and Chris, because it is a beautiful time to be an Imps fan. Like I said, I don't think there's anything else that we have to plug at the moment. Just definitely get yourselves over to YouTube if you haven't already done so, and hit subscribe on the Stacey West channel. We are dangerously close to 2,000 subscribers, which is going to be a big thing for us. We're going to have a bunch more YouTube stuff planned as well. We've had some discussions, and it could be quite fun. But I think we're back on Tuesday, or is it Wednesday? I don't know.
Still... Again, days don't exist until I go back to work on the 5th. Yeah, I know that's a Monday, and every day before that is just one of the days around Christmas time.
It's cheese, crisps, and beer. That's our week. But yes, right. We will see you guys whenever the next podcast is. But until then, of course, we'll end with Up the Imps.
Up the Imps.